It was just before dawn when Otter left his room at the Ironshield's home at the reservation. For the past week, he had been trying to talk with Chima, the father of Charlie Ironshield. Chima, like his son, was a medicine man. It was Chima who had agreed to begin Otter's education in tribal customs. Otter had always arrived late in the morning, and that being the case, he had missed his teacher each time he had gone to see him. Otter asked Charlie that evening, "What must I do?" "You must rise before he does." "How will I know when that is?" Otter asked. "You must watch him to learn that. Chima does not keep the same time that white man does." "But I have gone early every day, Charlie," Otter said with conviction. "How early?" asked Charlie. "Well, before 8 o'clock." Charlie shook his head. "Too late. You should put away your watch, Otter. I have seen how you have tied and tried to see what time it was much too often." "Why do you do this?" "So I will not be late." "Late for what?" Charlie asked. "Everything," Otter replied, frustrated. "Has your watch been of help in this?" "Well, no, not exactly." Shaking his head and looking lost. "Put it away. You must be accustomed and attuned to this place and the people here. Otter, there is a rhythm to life here. And until you do this, you cannot begin to truly see or learn the ways of the people or of the land." The next morning found Otter sitting outside Chima's lodge before Chima began his day. Hadn't even broken over the hills yet. Otter had learned that he must want to be and wait to be acknowledged by Chima before he spoke. So there he sat. The sun was now rising high, and the day was beginning hot. Still, Chima had not left his lodge. "Perhaps," Otter thought, "I have missed him again." "Why do you sit and watch my lodge like Coyote watching a rabbit hole, Otter?" spoke up Chima. Startled, Otter spun around to see his teacher sitting behind him. "I did not hear you, grandfather." And then Otter realized that he had called Charlie's father by a name he did not feel was proper. He quickly apologized. "Why do you apologize, boy?" "It is who I am, is it not?" And Otter could not be sure, but he thought he saw a flash of a smile cross Chima's face. But as quickly he dismissed it as a play of light on his teacher's face only. "You did not hear because you listen with the ears of a white boy who grew up in a white man's world, and you missed much. You will only learn if you leave your old ways behind." "Removed your timekeeping piece." Chima paused. "See? Already you begin to understand." "But Charlie told me that if I wanted to learn, I had to put away the old things, just like you have said. Otter waited until Chima stood, and they began to walk towards the hills. The sun was growing hotter as the day wore on. They walked in silence for more than 4 hours. Otter did not know for sure, but it seemed like that to him, and he did not have his watch. He did not know how far they had walked, but he did know that he had no preparation to go into the hills. He had not taken his canteen of water and felt foolish. They were deep into the hills when Chima stopped at last, turned and spoke to him. "Water," he said. "I know," Otter replied. "I forgot my canteen." Chima looked puzzled by his response and just stood there for a moment looking at him and scowling. "I did not ask you for water, boy." Then he gestured toward a small place at the bottom of the hill nearby. "Sit," Chima said. "Sit and still yourself." "Listen, boy. What do you hear?" Listened. Wind, perhaps, but no, not the wind. Something else. Chima. Otter was almost afraid to answer. "Close your eyes and open your ears. Use the gift the Creator gave you." I listened, but heard only the wind and the rustling of a nearby bush. Once again, Chima asked, "What do you hear, boy?" "Keep your eyes closed. Breathe deeply. Slow your mind and relax." Then he came over to Otter and pointed. "Be that bush there in front of you. See it with your eyes and your mind." It was at that point that Otter thought of how Charlie had once told him that all things have life. Man, the trees, the shrubs, even the rocks. Yes, the rocks. Then he thought and remembered how to hold on to Mother Earth so that he could feel her. Bush takes life from the soil. From the sun, it gets nourishment. It was then that he began to feel a pull in the pit of his stomach, as if he had a string attached to it, and it was being pulled towards something. He again stilled himself as best he could. It was then that he heard, or rather felt it, a sound like dripping. Yes, that was it. It was the sound of the water faucet in his backyard at home. began to smile. Chima obviously saw him smile and said, "What do you now hear?" Unsure if he should tell Chima what he thought he heard, he hesitated, but then answered, "I hear water dripping over there," and he pointed towards the direction he thought was right. "Come," Chima said, indicating with his hand. After 20 or so minutes, Otter was only guessing because, of course, he did not have his watch. They came to a small place in the rocks. At first, he did not see it. Then, listening, he heard it. The dripping sound again. Moving closer, he could see the rocks were damp, and looking between the rocks, there he saw a small pool. Water was indeed dripping, and after being told, he drank deeply from the pool using his hand. Who needs a canteen, he thought, anyway? It was then that he awoke startled. He had passed out, he realized, and thirst again racked his body. As he hung suspended, tangled in the parachute shroud, wrapped as if in a spider's web, unable to move. Reality of life, or possibly death, was on his mind again, for how many times he did not remember. For it had been at least 16 or maybe more hours since he had landed in the canopy of trees in the country of Laos in Southeast Asia. I had a dream, he thought. Then he began to pray again to the Creator that his teammates would find and cut him down soon. He sensed that he had developed over the years spent with Chima and Charlie. It was those senses that began to be impressed in his mind. Sounds coming from below broke his reverie. People moving down there, but were they friend or foe? Soon as he watched, a small figure began climbing the tree from which he was suspended. Is this the end? So many thoughts passed through his mind, and again he prayed. He could not see. And then he could. It was a young man with a machete. And then he was already singing his death song. He remembered it. He did not remember the young man cutting the shrouds after tying a rope to him and lowering him to the ground. When his head cleared, he was given water and led to a friendly village, given rice and made comfortable. They recovered his pack, and Otter used his radio to secure his return to his special unit. It was those years with the family that he came to love, and the teachings of the medicine wheel and of Father Sky and Mother Earth, of Chima and Charlie, the medicine man. He was now a part of him. That was the difference that shaped his future, and set heartspeaker upon the red road of knowledge.